Welcome back to this episode of Balancing Acts. We've been talking to Alison Tugwell, a book coach and author, about how you can use a book to grow your business, to make more money, how to market it. And now we want to talk a little bit more about the writing process itself. Why should you write a book? So, Alison, what advice would you have for people who maybe are on the fence about writing a book?
Yeah, I would say, what's your big dream? What's your big goal? How do you want to show up in the world? If it's, impact and creating a bigger impact, it's really nice to have something like a book to be able to like a low cost way of getting your message in the world. Not everybody can afford to work with you. That's just, if you're good at what you do and you're highly regarded in your field, there is going to be a barrier to that. And so a book just makes your expands your impact in such a big way. So I would say, just get really clear on, what your mission is in the world, what you're up to, because that is, yeah. And I know me personally, I'm always reading. I'm in a book club that meets every other Friday. We read 2 books a month, and we're constantly sharing insights and wisdom with each other. And if you're someone that attains knowledge through a book, I think that you're somebody that should write a book. And so, I think it's 80% of people say they want to write a book someday, but like 0.05 or excuse me, 0.5% of that number actually ends up publishing.
Yeah,
And
I think it's more on your bucket list than your to-do list when it comes to writing a book.
right, yeah, but there are really, really great tools out there to be able to do it in a way that isn't like pulling teeth. Um, I personally really enjoyed my writing and publishing process, and I want to make it, as pleasurable as an experience as possible and a growth opportunity. So,
So how important is it to identify your target audience before you write the book? Target audience is important from so many perspectives. Your pricing, who is your buyer, who you're marketing to, what the message is. So how important is it when it comes to writing a book?
oh, it's just as important, I think, as it is to identify your market and your business. But hey, good news. If you have a business already, chances are your reader is going to be the same person that you're going to want to help with your book. Maybe it's somebody that's you at your former self that you might be writing to, that uh, before you went through the same process, to find your way in your own industry. So it could be your former self. It could be someone that maybe is a couple steps behind of who you might work with. So kind of getting them to a point where they could, be a good fit. But I'd say if you have a business, you have a target customer, and chances are it's going to be probably one and the same for your book.
So like you're saying, you might be writing something for startups, but maybe you don't quite work with startups, but maybe you're talking to them about getting ready or getting their business maybe to the stage where they might be able to benefit from working from you, but they can still take the expertise you're sharing in your book. So there's different ways to look at who it's written for. But you also mentioned impact. And most of the time, I think people who write a book are trying to share their genius and to have an impact on those who read it. But what about, so I think we're mainly talking about writing nonfiction books, right? Whether not necessarily for business, depends on what, who your market is. But how do you make a nonfiction book become a bestseller? I know that's one of your focus areas.
Yeah, it starts with having a launch team. We talked a little bit about some of those ideas for getting people on the launch team early. We want to start early with that, and we want to get as many people as possible on that list. It's also about reviews. Amazon is a platform that is controlled by an algorithm that responds to how many purchases that one makes in an hour of book sales, and is also driven by very review driven as well. So book sales and reviews are the key to getting to number one, and also choosing your categories in a way that you can make them as niche and specific as possible. Now, you're still going for categories that are aligned with your book. For example, Linda, your book that, let's just hypothetically say it's on a one-page business plan. It might be just a business book, like you might have it in that genre. It could be in self-help, but we're wanting to really name a category that is as niche and as possible. So if you're looking on categories on Amazon, in the book section of it, you might have to skip down to a few rows. So it might be under business. It might be business books on finance. Within finance, it might be tax and accounting, right? So you're looking for as niche a category as you can name as possible. And that will likely increase your chances that you might rank number one, meaning the most amount of sales for this particular category in 1 hour. So I'll repeat that just one more time. An Amazon best-selling book is one that ranks number one in their category for 1 hour of a day. Okay. So it's actually easier than you might think to get that best-selling rank. But again, it's all about working your resources and the Amazon algorithm.
So that it's in 1 day, you can be bestseller just from that 1 day, 1 hour. That's amazing. Okay. I did not know that. So how do you guide authors through the writing process if you were going to work and coach someone through writing a book? Let's start with the writing process instead of publishing. How do you help them with the writing?
Yeah, I would say that the writing portion really comes from having a really great outline. And I think one of the most fun parts of the writing process starts with the mind map. And so what that might look like is you've got your theme or your topic of your book in the middle of a circle. And then once you do that, you kind of set 15 minutes on a clock, and you do kind of a brain dump on a whiteboard or a big sheet of paper. And you just go through and maybe it's the who, what, when, where, and how around what it is that you help people with. And you start to map that out. And from there, it's a really creative process. And I love mind mapping because it really, it's a visual way of showing what your brain does when it's mapping an idea in your head, kind of with these neural networks that happen when your brain is coming up with ideas. And that's kind of actually what it looks like in your head when you're making those neural connections. So that's what I love, starting with a mind map around a topic. And then from there, organizing it into columns and themes, really, your major themes, which will end up being your chapters. And once you kind of have that part outlined, again, I like to front load an outline as much as possible, meaning put in as much detail as possible under the chapters, under bullet points, as much as you can before you start the writing process, so that when you are ready to write, and I like to just aim for 1,000 words a day for 30 days, because a good length of a manuscript is about 30,000 words. And so if you're keeping that in mind, that makes it super simple. You just write directly in that outline. And if you've got lots of great notes for yourself, you can absolutely finish your first draft in 30 days.
Wow, there you go. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, AI, which you can't get away from no matter what industry you're in. Now, of course, you're not going to use AI to write a book because, first of all, it wouldn't even be copyrighted. It would be unethical. And I think all kinds of issues with that. But what about helping you on maybe you're not as good at mind mapping? How about helping you maybe with the names of chapters or themes? Is that a tool that can make it easier for beginning writers who possibly aren't, ready yet to take that step. 1,000 words sounds like a lot to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you haven't been writing regularly, that could be a lot. I would say on average, it might take about an hour if you are a regular writer, about writing about 1,000 words a day and in a well drafted outline. But yeah, with AI is a great brainstorming tool. Use it like a marketing assistant or a publishing assistant, if you will, to come up with some ideas for potential chapters after you have a kind of messy mind map. You've got a bunch of terms, plug that into Chat GPT and just see what it comes up with. Come up with, you know, 10 themes around, this raw data, this raw content that you have. And, I love the idea of coming up with great titles, too. So I would say AI is a great idea assistant generator. It's like you said, you're not going to want to use it for the actual writing portion of it. But for very, if you're in a little bit of a jam here and there, asking, AI to come up with 5 different ways of explaining one concept, you can always go through and kind of edit a response that ChatGPT gives, because, more often than not, you're going to be able to say it in a way that is more personal to you, and your target market better than AI would. So you say it in your own flavor and your own voice. But it can be great to solve for the blank page when you're just starting out in the process as well.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, a naming convention or writing, because you're not going to want to put your story or your book there either, because it wouldn't be protected once it goes online. So we have to use AI wisely as a tool to assist us, but we also have to monitor it and make sure that we're protected from, any of the problems that can be out there. So thank you for sharing that. How about when it comes to publishing? A lot of authors are going to, especially on a first book, they're going to want to self-publish. There's tons of stuff about self-publishing. You have to find the right fit and the right, company to help you. I assume platform for that. But what are some common mistakes authors make when they are self-publishing their books?
Yeah, I mean, the first I would say is just not getting help, trying to do everything themselves. That's a great way of never getting published, is just trying to take it all on yourself. So asking questions in your community, getting referrals for people that have also written books about, the places that they've gone to or the coaches they've used is great. The self-publishing option is the most affordable way. You actually don't need, you can set up a KDP, and as long as you got an Amazon account, you can set up an Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing account, which is called KDP, which is Amazon's publishing site. You can set one up for free, and upload your manuscript then and follow the prompts that they give you to upload your book. It is free to publish on Amazon. So they take a cut of your royalties, and how much they take a cut of just really depends on a lot of different options and such too. But I just want to reiterate that, like, it is free to publish a book on Amazon, which is why, it's the #1 distributor of books in the world, and why a lot of people do it, because it is just really taking a cut out of the royalty fees. So, yeah, you can absolutely do that. I would say another mistake that people use, or that people do, is like not using a great editor, like thinking that they can like self-edit their books. You can't. It's not going to be a good book. Like, you're too close to the content. You're going to need a professional, a second set of eyes on your book to really proofread it. Absolutely hire an editor. And I had to completely rewrite my book after the first draft, because I had a really good editor come back and say, you said that you wanted this book to be X, but it's actually looking a lot more like Y. And then I had to go back and be like, wow, she's totally right. It was feeling a little bit more like a memoir than it was a self-help. Like, I told a lot of personal stories in it. So I really had to go through and say, like, really, this book is not really about me. It's about my reader. And I had to really take a hard look at what I was writing and cut out a lot of personal stories just so I can make sure that I'm fitting the content into a platform in a way of so that the reader could really see themselves in the work versus hearing stories about my journey. So a great editor will point that out and point out the ways in which that you can say something in a more clear and direct way. And I say, the third mistake, we already kind of talked about it, but it's like not telling anyone you're writing a book and staying in your hole about it and like not sharing your journey. Because people are so interested in even some of the hard parts of writing a book. When you are getting stuck, when you're feeling frustrated, showing that you're still in it, that you're in it for the long haul and that you're committed to the process.
Mhm.
I think it shows a lot of like resilience and integrity when you're able to share the hard things too.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that's a great note to end on. How can people find you if they want to reach out to you or learn more? And what resources might you share with our audience?
Yeah, absolutely. So my Achilles heel is Instagram. I'm on Instagram all the time. That's where I would say you most likely to connect with me there. I'm at Ali Tugwell, ALITUGWELL on Instagram. So you can find me there. That's what we're showing right there is Pun Spoken, which is my business page as well. And that is punspoken_event as well. So if you want to learn more about my word nerd events, my pun and poetry events that take place mostly in Austin, Texas, you can find that there. And then, we've got a really amazing upcoming event for that is, if you're watching this live or very soon, it's August 1st through 3rd, 2024, called Author Advantage Live. And that's also just a really great resource for people that want to, we're going to be covering topics like launching and marketing a best-selling book, building your brand authority in business, and scaling your income, impact, and influence. And so, and that is, you can find that at bit.ly/AAL-2024.
Thank
And
you,
that is
Alison.
all lowercase. Yeah.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Balancing Acts and join us again next week. I, for one, hope you learned something about how you can write a book, how you can use it to grow your business, and be more successful creating additional revenue streams. Thank you, Alison, for your time.
Thank you.
This has been a Now Media Networks feature presentation. All rights reserved.